Hi Anna, I'm just going to quickly walk through the handouts that I saved for you from today's class. That way you know where we are and what we're doing. So we made these letter people and we talked about how it's important to be using kids' first names when we're teaching about phonics and letters and sounds. And so your letter person is kind of funny looking. I printed it off of a site called Alpha Buddies. So if you look there, but here would be the A, and then here's like all of the accessories that you could cut the A out and then glue on, like the eyes and the legs and the hands and holding the apple. And everyone in your class could do one unique to the first letter of their name. And we made those together in class today. We also spent a good amount of time talking about phonemic awareness, which is the precursor to learning how to read. And so some of the activities that we talked about, this is the super sound slide where you cut out these pictures on the bottom, and then kids would like take the bear and they climb up the slide, and then they hold it at the top and they would go b-air, and then they could do k-at, m-ouse. And it's all about separating the initial sound from the rest of the word. We talked about how this could be a great center for preschool or kindergarten, or we could also blow it up bigger and make it good to use in our group meeting space when we were practicing separating out sounds. Another activity we did was these animal picture cards here, and just talked about how you could hide those around the room. And then on the front here, it describes down here about an animal hunt, what you could do to kind of lead the kids in a sing-song rhyme to go around the room and search for the missing animals. And so we didn't actually do that one, we just talked about it. Next, we talked a lot about the importance of finger plays and poetry in our classroom, no matter what age we're working with. With younger kids, these finger plays are really important, and I gave you a whole pack of examples because we talked about how it's great to make these relate to the theme that you're working on in science, social studies, language arts. So like if you were doing something about butterflies or life cycles, this caterpillar magic would be good. Here's one about snow. There's one in here about pumpkins and springtime and rabbits. So these are just for you to keep, but it's also just to make you think about searching for these. And finger plays are ones where it has the little pictures that tell you what to do at each part of the poem. So, caterpillar curls up tight, spins a shell, and dreams of flight. She sleeps soundly day and night, till one morning flies away. And what we also talked about was having kids practice reading these and making up the motions if they weren't provided, but then putting them each week into a poetry folder. That way kids could keep them all year long, and then at the end of the year they would have a nice collection of poetry that you had worked on throughout the whole school year. We also did these picture dominoes, which was kind of difficult for some people. But the dominoes, you cut them out on the dotted line, not on the solid line in between, because they're supposed to be like domino pieces. And what you do is you play dominoes, but you match them up by ending sound. Now, not rhyming sound, just the final sound, because sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on the beginning of the word, but not the end of the word. And that's what this activity is for. So, like, this is a sled. It ends in d. And so then you can match it up to bread, because bread ends in d as well. Okay, so that was kind of hard for some people, but I think we figured it out together. We also did a letter sort where I gave everyone copies of the alphabet, and you cut these out, and then I just said, now sort these into piles, and you can use by sound, or you can just do by the way they look. And you just leave it open-ended for kids. So you don't tell them how many piles, you don't tell them how to sort them, and you just let them sort. So some people in our class sorted them into piles where you had to pick up your pencil to create the letter, or if you could just write it in one continuous motion. Some people sorted them by ones that have right angles, ones that have diagonals, ones that have rounded edges. So we just talked about the different things. Kids can do the same thing. As long as they can justify why they put them in what groups, then it's okay. These were all capital letters. You could also do the same thing by giving kids the lowercase alphabet. So I have that example in here for you. And then this is the other important thing that we talked about was the way that we introduce letters into our class. You might get hired where you have a curriculum that tells you what order to introduce letters and sounds. But if you don't, or even if you do, it's important to kind of figure out what approach that curriculum is using for introducing letters. So we don't just teach A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The only way that you would ever do that and go in order is if it was like a really early preschool where you're just trying to introduce letter awareness. But when we're talking about teaching kids how to read, it's going to be one of these two ways. So approach one is on reliability. And so by reliability, what we're talking about here is how often and consistently does that sound make its consistent sound. So on the chart here, M almost always says when you see it, or V almost always says V when you see it. And then these are pretty reliable letters as well. And then we get less reliable as we work across the chart. And so finally, like here's those ones that have the hard sound and the soft sound. So the K and the S, the G and the J. Okay? So that's one way to do it because you're saying like, how likely is it that these sounds will say these sounds when you encounter them in text? Approach number two is actually by frequency. So this one's a little bit more complicated. Here it's saying how frequently do kids encounter these letters and letter combinations when they actually read real books and text. So single letter sounds, multi-consonant families, consonant vowel families. Over here, we're not saying that you would necessarily teach all of these before you would move over here. Instead, you want to teach them in a combination that gets kids reading as fast as they can. So I might teach ST, and then I might actually jump over and teach them CH and TH. And then I might go over here and actually teach them like the AT family. So if I did that, the whole idea is that I'm teaching kids that, they could read SAT, that, chat, all because I just taught them a few things, okay? And then it's the same thing as you introduce more single letters and more blends and more word families. You're just telling them like, hey, if you can spell hat, you can also spell that, or so on and so on. Okay, so two different approaches there. One by reliability of sound. Second is by frequency of text. Okay, so as far as assignments go for this week, we did practice our first sound quiz, and so that's something that you and I are going to have to talk about how we're going to get you caught up on that. But you need to be working on those cards, and most importantly, we created a practice deck. I try to get with somebody in class and see if they'll let you copy theirs and talk to you about it. If not, I will definitely let you have mine tomorrow. But that practice deck is really going to help you prepare for the sound quizzes. So as far as other assignments that I need you to complete, here would be the first one. I want you to fill out this little graphic here, and not this one, I'm sorry. That one says after. This one says prior. Prior knowledge map about phonics. So you're just going to, before you read anything or do anything else, you're going to jot down in these boxes things that you either know about phonics or your experiences with phonics or things that you're thinking about. You may fill in all the boxes and you only may fill in a couple of them. But look at this as kind of like a pre-assessment of your thoughts about phonics. Then you're going to read this article called 10 Rules for Reading. And then you're going to go back and fill out almost the same organizer, only I've scratched it out and now it says after knowledge map. And I want you to fill out now these boxes based on the 6 takeaways that are most important after you read 10 rules for reading. So you'll turn in both of these graphic organizers to me based on that one. So we did that one together today in class. Okay, and then one of the bigger projects for the class is this structured language PowerPoint assignment. And I think if you read through the directions here, you will be able to figure out what you need to do. It is due by 8:30 a.m. on Friday because we're going to interact with it in the Canvas space. So you'll see a spot on Canvas under this module where it says upload your structured language PowerPoint. The biggest thing is after you research the one that I'm going to give you, you need to record yourself talking over top of it as if we were going to present it in class. but instead of taking up class time, we're just going to do it digitally online. Yours is Orton Gillingham. And then this is a good site that the last time I checked it worked, so hopefully it works for you. But just read through the directions and then let me know if you have any questions about this. And then we can talk about that if you do, because I want you to be able to work on that throughout the week. Okay, just wrapping up, some extra homework that I gave everybody, I'm checking because I took a picture, is you also need to be prepared. Oh, yeah. I assigned different sections of this phonemic awareness book, and I talked about how if you look at it, it's just the lessons, they tell you exactly what to teach. And so I gave everybody a different section number. I need you to look in between pages 97 and 102 and pick out one lesson between 97 and 102 that you can share with the class tomorrow. So ask a friend if you have any questions about that, but it's pretty straightforward. I think if you look at it, you'll be able to figure that out. So that's part of your homework. And then online on Canvas, there's a module called The Place of Phonics. It's just a little pre-test about phonics stuff. Look at the module. Again, it's called the Place of Phonics module. You do the little pre-test, you check your answers, and then you write a little summary about how you did. And then in your textbook, the Cunningham textbook, the other one, you need to read chapter 7. And then after you read chapter 7, you need to complete this summary paper about what you read from chapter 7 out of the textbook. The chapter is about high frequency words. So if you have a different edition, look for the chapter on high frequency words. And then of course, if you have any extra time, which you probably don't, is practice those sound cards, and particularly try to get that practice deck made. It's a separate deck of cards from what we made before you left today. All right, text me if you have any questions, and otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow morning, Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. Thanks, Anna.